Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. My name is Tawana Rivers. This is the 10K Project, and tonight is a Bet on Black pitch. We are honoring this evening and showing love to Stephanie LaFlora from Crownhunt, and we're going to learn all about her project. But first, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the campaign page. So let me share my screen. This is a WeFunder campaign. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we know WeFunder's campaign page, right? We come on here a lot. But I'm going to show you some of the details of the deal. You guys know I love when we're still in that early bird phase, because that means you get preferential rates. And so this campaign is still in the early bird. There's $37,667 left to raise before the early bird ends. Currently, Stephanie has raised already $102,075. Reserved of a $250,000 goal. So this campaign is doing good things already. Congratulations, Stephanie, on that. This campaign is still in testing the waters, which means that Stephanie is in the process of getting ready to file her Form C. So these are reservations that you're making this evening. Once the Form C is filed, then you'll get notification that the Form C is filed and you have to go back in and reconfirm your investment. And so if this campaign is something you're interested in this evening, after you hear about it and do your due diligence, you want to go ahead and make that reservation, right? And that's the first part of a great plan. And then part B of a great plan is when you get the email saying the Form C is filed, please reconfirm. Then you go in and you can reconfirm it. If you do one plan without the other, then the investment is not set in place. So you want to make sure you do both of those steps. We oftentimes have founders come back and say, can you help me send reminders out telling people to look for the campaign email saying reconfirm. So a lot of times we miss that. So be sure to check whatever email frequently that you sign up to on the portals with, so that you can get those emails. And we don't want you to miss out on these opportunities. If you don't reconfirm, you are not an investor. All right. The investment terms on this particular campaign has a 3.75 million valuation cap that has decreased from the 5 million valuation. This is a future equity deal. The early bird bonus. So for the first 140K that invest in this safe with that lower valuation of 3.75 and a 25% discount. So after that early bird, after they get to the 140 is when the $5 million valuation will come back. So you really want to get in at that discounted amount. That's a good deal. Investor perks, there's a $100 perk, there's a $500, there's a 1K, 5K, and a 10K. And I'll just hover over here so you can see that. So, y'all know how y'all like swag. We got a t-shirt for the $100. $500 is a t-shirt plus free 1-year Crownhunt membership. And you can also gift that to someone else. And then $1,000 is the t-shirt, the 1 year, and an investor shout out on Instagram. And then the $5,000 is the t-shirt, the 1 year, the shout out, and you get an invite to the investor gathering. And then there was one more. Hold on, I lost my. And then the $10,000 is everything we just talked about, as well as the invest. Oh, there it is. It's plus the textured hair industry showcase. So you get not only the investor gathering, as in the $5,000 one, and travel expenses are not included. So make sure you read that and understand that. But for the $10,000, you also get an invitation to the textured hair industry showcase. All right. I'm always telling you guys how important it is to review the campaign page. I'm going to do that again tonight. Review everything on the campaign page. The founders spend a lot of time making sure you have all the good information that they believe you need to know enough about them to want to invest in them. So please take the time to read everything. Again, once the Form C is filed, typically you'll see that down. There'll actually be a terms section that'll pop up here, and that's where the Form C will be filed. But you can see there's all good information here that we want you to look at. And Stephanie will go over anything additional that she wants you to know. So with that said, I am going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, my dear Stephanie. Welcome to 10K. And
Thank you
Stephanie
so
is a
much.
member. So she's been hanging out with us already for 2 weeks, checking out the Bet on Black pitches that we've already had. I love when a founder emerges themselves into our community, even before their pitch. Not many do it. So the ones that do it, I'm always super excited when I see your names in the participation links, because it lets me know you didn't just come here to raise money. You came here to be a part of this community. And that means the world to us. So thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you for having me. First of all, this work that you guys are doing is incredible. It's really important work. It's work after my own heart. And so you guys will hear a little bit more about that in terms of just my heart for entrepreneurs. And I'm just so grateful to be here. So I'm excited to tell you guys about Crownhunt. I will hop in. It'll be a little bit of a combo of somewhat formal, somewhat informal. I'm an informal person, but my formal presentation is good. So I'm gonna show it to y'all. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Just give me one sec.
Alrighty.
All right, I'm assuming everything's good. You guys can all see. Fantastic. So my name is Stephanie LaFlora, and I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Crownhunt. And I really want to begin by telling you the origin story of Crownhunt. What is Crownhunt? It's the marketplace making life with curly hair easier, starting by teaching the 1.2 million stylists who have not been properly trained on how to care for these textures. So I like to start by saying the best founders have lived the problem that they're trying to solve. And really, I'm no exception. So I want to start with a few examples just to like warm you up of people who fit this category. So Sarah Blakely, you might recognize the name, was getting ready for a party. And she realized that her combination of her white pants that she was going to her party in and her underwear choice was just not going to work. And so she took a pair of control top pantyhose. She cut the top of them off, and that's how Spanx was born. Morgan DeBond saw a need for a platform and a media brand that would share authentic stories about underrepresented African American millennials in America. And that's how Blavity was born. I got one more. Jen Hyman saw her sister going into credit card debt, trying to look really good for a wedding. And she thought there must be a better way. And that's how Rent the Runway, I always trip up, that's really hard to say. Rent the Runway was born. And so for me, I was rejected from 5 different salons, hair salons, because they were not trained on how to style my 4C textured hair. I don't know if y'all can see it, it keeps going in and out of the blur, but they were not trained on how to style my hair. And so I used my decade worth of data tech experience to building web and mobile products to create Crownhunt. So that's just like a little bit of background of how I arrived at this moment. So the natural hair movement has been something that's been growing for a decade, but it really exploded in 2020. It was a year that was known for many unprecedented things that was initiated in our lives, but also one where we stopped doing so many things that had once been routine. In addition to wearing real pants, people also stopped straightening their hair, their curly hair, dyeing their grays, and like returning to the office, nobody really wants to go back to normal. 65% of the people in this country, that's over 200 million people, have curly to coily hair, or what we call textured hair. And yet only 1 in 10 stylists has been trained on how to properly care for these hair textures. So what does this mean? This means that this shift in how people wear their hair, again, it's been happening for a decade, but it really turbocharged in 2020 when people began to embrace their natural selves and to be more casual, really. This shift in how people wear their hair is something that the industry is just absolutely not prepared for. This means that when I visit a salon on the coily side of the spectrum, or even when Christy visits the salon with 3A hair, the stylist is pretty terrified. They don't know what to do. They're not confident about how to style the hair. And so oftentimes that results in a bad experience where we're not happy with our hair, but sometimes it even means we're humiliated because we've been rejected from the salon altogether, which was my experience. So this is the gap that Crownhunt is filling in this 62 billion with a B dollar industry. Our mission is to make life easier for people with curly hair. And I say curly broadly, but it's to make life easier for people with curly hair. And we're doing that first by making sure that stylists are equipped with the relevant training they need to serve every member in their community and to grow their business. So this is a peek at what Crownhunt looks like, you know, behind the scenes. In our early product market fit testing, we launched an online education subscription for stylists, and we had an emphasis on textured hair. And we quickly acquired over 2,300 members through targeted advertising. And this really validated that the market demand for this is high. I also want to mention here that these same members also are purchasing a la carte classes. So not just validating that the market demand for this education is high, but also that people are willing to pay for it. And we did this in collaboration with influencer educators whose work has been featured in major media and brands. In fact, you might recognize this woman in the picture. Her name is Camilla. She also calls herself the Queen of Knotless. And she partnered with us, and she actually did the hair for the new Sex and the City spinoff. It's just like that. The one that just came out this year, she was on set doing the hair. You might have seen some of her knotless braids on the show. And she actually sold more classes through us, her knotless braiding classes, than she had through any other partnership. So there's 3 major trends that are happening outside of just like cultural trends that we're leveraging. And this is why we think the time to turbocharge this effort and for us to raise this money right now is now. 1, the state of Louisiana this month, for the first time in its history, will require cosmetology schools to teach textured hair. This is the only state in all our 50 states that has done this so far. And we think this is the beginning of a huge wave of momentum, adding this pressure to, legislation and making this a thing that people have to do. Then there's the Crown Act. You probably heard of the Crown Act. It's currently making its way through the Senate. I think 2 states joined last week, making now 18 states that have done it on the state level. And what it does is it is legislation that ensures that people with curly hair, coily hair cannot be discriminated against at work or at school. And so this is really important, culturally, but also this is something that we think will drive a higher demand of natural hair services in salons, because now people are going to feel more confident that they can wear these styles in all different settings and be accepted. And then the last one here is just this move towards organic products. The move towards organic and natural products has led to a rejection of harsh chemicals, including the harsh chemicals that are required to straighten hair. For this reason, hair relaxers, which we all know the creamy crack, their sales are actually down 26%. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about our packages and how we are making money today and how we look to make money tomorrow. Right now, we have this freemium layer. This is what we have today. And this is really an e-commerce a la carte group of classes that are on textured hair and business. And so our freemium members, that's the 2,300 members, when they join, they get access to these classes. They're often highly discounted, like as steep as 50% off. And we're able to get these type of partnerships with these educators because of how targeted our audience is. They're not able to, there's no other place to find a group of stylists who are focused on increasing their skills in these areas. Then what we're moving towards, and this is what we're raising money for right now, is a subscription model. So we want to take that a la carte and then add an ability to subscribe on a monthly or annual basis, and then be able to access the entire library of classes for a low monthly fee. Think Netflix for hair education, something like that. And then We ultimately next year want to move into a premium subscription where we would add things for stylists who are looking really to grow and scale their business with things like client match or becoming a product affiliate. I'm gonna stop there for just a second because I think that is really worth explaining, because to me, there's a really good reason to invest right now. That's the momentum that's happening within our company and then culturally and then legally in the country. But then there's also our plan. And I think our plan is strengthened by the fact that my background and my co-founder's background, who I'll tell you more about later, we come from tech. That's our world. That's why I'm in Colorado, which I think people are always like, why are you in Colorado? I'm in Colorado because there's a big tech industry here. And 10 years ago, I came here to learn everything I could about startups and how to build products that scale and sell and become unicorns. And I've been taught by people who have done it multiple times over, and now I'm doing it myself. So part of that is this, where's the vision? We're at where we're at now, but where's the long-term vision? I'm gonna just talk through a quick anecdote. So imagine we get tons of stylists to come onto our platform because they're looking for this education they can't find anywhere else. And by the way, this includes everybody. This is not exclusive to Black stylists. It's not exclusive to non-Black stylists, because some people think those are the only ones who would need this. Everybody had the same education. So actually everybody could use this. And we've had all kinds of stylists from all different backgrounds interested in signing up for this. So imagine these stylists show up and they're getting this education. They can't find it anywhere else. It's a low monthly price. It's a no-brainer. They're really excited about it. Then we add this ability to bring in consumers. So now that these stylists are qualified and they are educated on how to style my 4C hair, praise Jesus, somebody. Now that they have that skill, we can match them to a person with that hair texture that's looking for someone to style their hair. That's a differentiator in the space. There are a few other booking sites that are out there, most of them small. There's one called Style Seat. They're the biggest in the game. But our differentiator is that we're actually educating and certifying stylists so we can match with confidence and we can build that trust with the consumer that they're actually going to get the experience they're looking for. So that's the client match piece. And then the product piece is, once you have the stylists on the platform and you have these consumers on the platform, well, now you really got a compelling offer for product companies. And I'm talking everything from the smaller product companies that are making natural hair products in their kitchen, I love them, to the people who are the companies that are large brands that are in Target and whatever else. The thing is, we would be able to do a direct to consumer play that's very unique because we have this data on hair texture. And then also we have this entire network of stylists, which is really big, because one of the ways that the big product brands really make money is they do these deals with salons where they have them selling their products in the salons as affiliates. If you talk to anybody in the product game, or even like Black hair care, Black salons game, that's something that's really missing from their business model. And it's one of the reasons why white stylists often and white salons often make more revenue. So what we would be able to do is say all these brands that are going into Target and different places like that now, as they increase, their as they're scaling in a whole new way these curly hair products, why don't we give stylists also the opportunity to sell those products to the people whose hair they're already doing, but create that match through an app. So it's much more streamlined, automated, all that. So that's like, we're looking at that piece, the product piece in like 2024, the client match in 2023. So that gives you a sense of like our growth strategy. So again, this opens up opportunities for other types of subscriptions, consumer subscriptions, product brand subscriptions, and then enterprise, because these cosmetology schools are under pressure to quickly add content and classes for textured hair. We think we can partner with them to do that, and we're already in talks with Paul Mitchell. So this is just real quick. We do have an IP strategy that we're thinking through. We have fantastic IP attorneys that we're talking to. And so we're looking at, what would it look like for us to create these certifications and even a hair texture, a textured hair matrix where we're creating the standard of what matching looks like, which is really our bread and butter. This is our secret sauce right here. You know, how do we match people to the right stylist and the right products based on their hair texture? And that's something that we believe will be able to make industry standard. And that goes into Hollywood as well. Okay, so all of that stuff I just said, what does that look like in math? So here's a brief look at our projections. I have to say these things. These are projections. That means that this is our educated, estimate of what might be possible if things go according to plan. These projections are based on us adding those new layers of industry, and that's really what we're basing our ultimate growth on. Education is really the foundational layer. It's something that we learned early on would solve our chicken egg problem, because we always wanted to match the consumers and the stylists, but that was like a chicken egg crazy thing. And then thankfully we discovered the education problem as core that allowed us to see a pathway to avoid the chicken egg, because one class can teach 1,000 stylists. And so that allowed us to figure out how to scale before actually getting those consumers on. Oh, and then we're looking to reach profitability by 2024 based on our plan to date. Okay. So I'm just gonna talk through this super fast. This part is really for if there's any data nerds out there, which I'm one of them. This is really a quick snapshot of like how we plan to do things differently. We're thinking like consumers and stylists can come to us. They are then put through a data layer that's analyzing all of the data we're collecting from who's taking what class, what's their hair texture, what products work for them, all these things. And we can actually make tailored recommendations based on that. And so one of the questions people ask is, who are your competitors? And how are you doing things differently than them? The answer really is this chart. We actually don't, of course you have competitors, but we are thinking that our competitors will only think that we're competitors with them in the beginning. And then they'll see that we are actually partners. Because while we're just in this education space, it can feel that way, but ultimately what we want to be is the platform that recommends and has the data on the hair industry to do that better than anywhere in the world. And so at that point, some of these things might be ours, some of these things might be other people's. But I'll give you a few examples of companies that fit into these different categories of education, salon services, and products. So Aveda in education, I would say they're doing a great job. They're probably the largest cosmetology school in the world in terms of locations. They just added a textured hair to their curriculum, I think in 2021. Last year, 2020 changed everybody's game plan. And so, some of their classes might be the right fit for our people. At the end of the day, we think that we'll be in a transaction game more than anything else. But to start, we're building relationships based on texture being our emphasis and based on business being our emphasis, which the business side, no cosmetology school is doing well. Then in salon services, Style Seed, I mentioned them a bit earlier. They have really, prior to 2020, their focus was being the booking platform for stylists. So if you wanted to, a stylist might say, oh, you can make an appointment on my Style Seed page. And then you go to their page and you basically select the services you want and you pay for it. In 2020, they made the shift to adding consumer match. They're a big player in this space. They've been in it for a long time. We think this data situation will change the game for us, as well as our ability to recommend, not just have recommendations of a stylist near you, but a qualified stylist near you, which if you have textured hair is your biggest pain point. Then the last one here is products. There's a lot of people in products. Paul Mitchell is a big product person, a big product brand. There's a bunch of natural hair care products as well. We're not looking to ever create products. We're really looking to match products. And so I think the salon services or the education piece would be in the competitor space. So how big is this opportunity? I mentioned $62 billion earlier. And that is the size of the market. That includes education, um, products, and also salon services. Um, oh, sorry about that. Let me go back. So that's all of those. I'm not sure if you can see these emojis. They popped up on my screen. I'm assuming you can't see them. No? Okay, great.
No.
I'll just ignore them. Wonderful. I don't know why they're there, but I'll just ignore them. Okay, great. So that's the size of the market. The SAM, serviceable addressable market, is really that education, all of education, TAM plus 65% of products and salon services. And that makes sense because 65% has textured hair. And then if we just went after 20%, that is literally it, we would be an $8 billion company in revenue. So that gives you a sense of like how big of a deal it is to try to put all of these different industries on the same platform. And that's just with 20% of the textured hair market. I'm not even talking about other ones. So that gives you a sense of like how big of an opportunity this is. So we're raising $1 million. I should say that our crowdfund piece is 250K. We've raised about 200,000 to date. That includes both the crowdfund and outside capital from institutional investors. We're looking to develop our team, starting with a CTO, build out that subscription product that I was talking about, and then cover some operational marketing costs. The significance of this and why I have this is because I want you guys to know that like we really care about raising money with the community. We don't have to do it that way. We want to do it that way. In fact, it's harder work actually, raising money with the community, because you're looking at smaller check sizes and you hustling to get to these numbers that, you know, somebody can write a check like that. And we have institutional investors that are writing checks like that. And so this is really important to us. It was from the beginning. We first thought about our funding strategy because we think that first of all, the hair industry is 91% female in terms of stylists, 38% BIPOC. So we're looking at a really diverse group. And then also, I'm never lost on the reality that this entire thing is really at the core. I want to serve the Black hair industry, because they've been the most dismissed and the least supported. Stylists pay $20,000 to go to cosmetology schools, and nobody in any of them until this month has thought maybe we should include texture hair training in the curriculum in a significant way. I've had stylists tell me that they have 4 hours of training. They have 1,500 hours they have to get. 4 hours of it was textured hair. And so I think that's an atrocity. And I'm really passionate about changing that. And we will change that with our product. But I also want to change it by saying, hey, you know how much this is important. You're in the community. You can either see the need as a consumer or you can see the need as a professional. We got the doors open. We are very early. This is our seed round. Our returns are very, very, very nice. If you look at other companies and you see where their val caps are and stuff like that, like this is a solid. So I just want to put that out there. And then just a quick look at the team. So my co-founder, Ryan, we worked at the same tech company in Colorado. His background is in spinning up new verticals in technology. So what we did together, really what we did at our company was we looked at data. So this is like big data. So some people get scared. I think it's the coolest stuff in the world. So we looked at big data primarily for large nonprofits and social service companies. And we would see, okay, based on the psychographic profile of the people you're trying to serve, this is the marketing strategy you need. This is the locations that you need. This is like the overall strategy for your whole company that you need. So we would go in and do large scale changes in companies based on this information. I was on the marketing side of that, and Ryan was really looking for new verticals that could leverage technology and data in order to improve their efficacy. So that really is a lot of what we're doing right now. Then we're also supported by an incredible group of advisors all over the place that spans from industry insiders with serious cred to leaders of companies that were Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 50 companies, that, they built and scaled, and they are in our corner. So we've got a lot of great people helping us as well. So that's Crownhunt. I'm happy to have questions. This QR code actually goes to our WeFinder, which you guys already have access to. So, yeah.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Go ahead and put your Q&As in the Q&A section. I got a whole bunch to start us with. So my brain is just going. I want to make sure the community understands what the early bird really means, right? So we said the valuation is normal valuation is 5 million. It's marked down to 3.7, right? Was it 3.7 or 3.75?
3.75.
3.75 up to the first $140,000 raised. So just think of that very simply, right? You just investment terms, right? I am not a financial advisor. Let's just say that. So do your own due diligence. So this is Tawana's version of what this means, right? With investing, you want to get in low, right? So that as a company makes more money or is valuated at a higher rate, in theory, you now own more either shares or if it's a promissory, if it's debt, whatever the case is, you now have a bigger vested interest as it earns more money, right? So in this situation, you invest with a 3.75 valuation. Once the company now has a valuation of $5 million, your investment has already made money, right? So I want to make sure that you understand how important, when we see these early bird rounds, how important it is to get in before they expire, right? You essentially, if it was shares, you'd be getting more shares. With that 25% discount that's included, once this future equity is assigned, it's worth more. That's the end of the day. That's the assessment, right? It will be worth more. So a lot of times I'll say, oh, there's only such and such days left in the campaign, get in early. But when you see the early bird special, that's a whole different thing because it's not date driven. It's truly based on the activity of the investors. So, we're $36,000 away, which is not a lot at the end of the day, away from that cap going up. So at the end of the evening, if this is an investment that you believe fits in your portfolio nicely after you do your due diligence, of course, right? You want to go ahead and respond accordingly so that you can get in at that lower valuation. So I felt like I needed to explain that a little better. And I should have done that as I was talking about it. So I apologize to you all for not sitting there a little longer with it initially. But I definitely wanted you to know that. The other thing, Stephanie, I want you to tell the story. You talked about in the beginning that you were turned away from 5 salons, but tell us what happened with that and what the impact of that really was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Q&A and I'm gonna make sure I for sure answer y'all questions also, but I'm seeing Sarah's question and so I relate to you. She's saying she's in Colorado and having a similar problem. So Colorado, I lived in Chicago and I lived in LA prior to living in Colorado. So I've always lived in the melting pot. And even though, when I moved to LA, I went to college there. I was meeting a lot of people, and I realized something very quickly when I moved here is that I had always gotten stylist recommendations from word of mouth. I had never Googled a hair salon prior to moving here, even though you Google everything. And so I started by just looking, actually, no, this is actually funny. So I had in my hair a sew-in, and so, you take a sew-in out and what is left? Some very dirty, very tangled hair. And so I took it out and needed to go back to work on Monday. I took it out on like a Thursday or Friday, thinking like, oh, I'll just book an appointment. No. So I was looking on Google. I'm looking, and I was the first Black employee at my company. This matters a lot. The town that I worked in is Boulder, Colorado. Less than 1% Black people. So the struggle was all the way real. How do you even begin? So I was trying to Google Black hair salons, which may be a thing now, but it for sure was not when I moved here. And just realizing like, I don't even know where to start with this search. So then I just said, I know that I've been told my whole life, you just go to a Black stylist. Like that's just understood. There's no I don't remember having conversations about it. It's just kind of like it's what you do, and you don't not do that. And so I was just like, maybe that's something we tell each other, and that's not necessary. I don't know. I just needed my hair done, and I
You
was
thought it was an urban
for,
legend?
I didn't know. I was hoping it was. I guess that's the truth. I was hoping that it was because I was in a desperate situation. And so, and I have natural hair, obviously, but all I wanted was a wash and blow dry. So I was like, maybe someone can do this. So I made appointments at one place. I went there in the lobby. They looked at my hair and I came in like this. And they were like, I'm so sorry, but we cannot do that. And I could tell they were really embarrassed. I could tell they were really mortified, honestly, that they couldn't do it. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but I'm just saying that's what the experience that they had. And then I went to another place, same experience, and another place, same experience. And one time I tried to call in advance and I was like, listen, this is how my hair is. I don't want to make another appointment and get rejected. And they were like, oh no, of course. And the woman was like, this is a red flag, but I, desperate times. She was like, I got a mixed daughter, so I know what to do. And I'm like, we will see about that. And so I went and she looked at my hair and it was like, oh, her hair is not like yours. I'm like, yes, I figured as much, but I thought maybe you at least knew what the difference between your daughter's hair and my hair might be. She did not. So that was the whole thing. And then eventually I got into a conversation with one of the owners. And that's when the owner was like, we're just not taught how to do your hair. That I know that's terrible. I'm really sorry. And I honestly thought he was lying because I just thought he was just trying to get me out. Because that just seemed so,
right.
As a Black woman who has gotten my hair done, who's obsessed with hair, who loves hair my whole life.
Right.
It was hard for me to believe that. I've lived in different regions of the country. It just seemed like that can't be possible. And so for me, it was really shocking to learn that. And so then I started doing research and confirmed that. And then also brought together a panel of stylists and educators and people in the space. It was not just a Black group, it was mixed with a bunch of different ethnicities. They were from different states. And, then we learned about the gaps in the industry. So that's kind of the detailed background of the origin story.
Yes, so I love how you took this problem and you turned it into a solution for all of us. And I always find that to be amazing. So often we just complain about a thing and then keep it moving. And this was not something that you could keep moving past. You saw there was an opportunity here. And I absolutely love that. We need to be able to find these places and these services. And I love that 2,300 stylists have signed up already, because you're right. That proves that there's a need for it, right? They understand the importance of it enough to support the platform and sign up. And that's a small amount based on what I know you're going to be able to do. I found it also as an atrocity that in 1,500 hours, only 4 hours is dedicated to textured hair. That was
one stylist experience. Yeah. And so it's just, wow. It's crazy. But I mean, what I'm learning, it's a lot like, teaching Black history in schools. Like it might be in the book, but they don't cover it. And right. The thing is, even in schools like Paul Mitchell, because I've been talking to them, they altered their curriculum in 2020 because they got called out like everybody else. And then their current problem is they have nobody to teach the classes. So they changed. So they got a panel of stylists. They had a panel of, Black educators and things like that to like create the curriculum. But then they've got 100 locations all over the country. They don't even know that many people to teach it.
Right. Yeah, and you can't. So you still have to be, I think, part of the culture to be able to teach it and really be able to execute it. Right. You can't just read this out of a manual, I would imagine.
You need the hours.
Yeah. Right. Interesting. The thing that you left out that I think is also important that we talk about is you're focused on curly and coily hair. That's a global issue, right?
It is. In fact, I actually was just talking to someone in the UK today. They just in the past year changed their legislation, but on the federal level, because they don't do this state stuff that we be doing. They changed it on the federal level to make textured hair education part of curriculum. I didn't even know that. So I just learned that today, actually talking with some beauty professionals in London. So yeah, it is definitely a national, not national, it's a global issue, especially in Europe. Is the other space. So we think we'll expand, but the U.S. is 8 billion. If you just capture 20% of the market right here. So
right, but if you think about globally, right? Well, so when you look at that 62 billion with the B total addressable, and you think about that's just here, right?
Yep.
And it reminds me, we had a company come pitch Anasi, and I'm going to connect you guys. Anasi Hair Care. They also focus. They don't focus on. They are Black, obviously, and but they don't focus on Black hair care products. They focus on the texture, because when you focus on the texture, you get into all these other countries, right, and continents that have the same texture that we do. And it opens up that market even more. And that's when you get to the trillions, right? When you talk about addressable market. And so I love that your focus is texture.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, the texture spectrum is real. Like I've had, we go around talking about this in a lot of different spaces. I've had Latina women come up to me and say, "Oh my God, we need this." I've had Asian women come up to me and say, "Oh my God, we need this." I've had white women come to me and say that. In fact, the Christy that was on the deck that I showed is one of our investors. She has curly hair. She gets the problem. So it's really a very broad conversation. Black hair is something that we know about intimately. It's also something that's been politicized. And so there's just like the passion on the Black hair side and on the Afro Latina. And when I say Black, I say that broadly. Right. That is a different level, because it's been such a struggle to be accepted, to be seen as professional, to be seen as attractive. And so that story comes with like so much depth, which is why, I'm proud to be doing this, because I think that we can honor that and also demonstrate how this is a huge opportunity that everybody missed ignoring things. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, and I'm just starting my entrepreneurial career, but I can tell you right now where I'm going, is I'm on a mission to expose the things that people ignore and the cultural weaknesses that we have. Expose it by showing how much money could have been made if you cared. That's what I'm on a mission to do. And I want to bring people with me. So I intend to crowdfund everything I ever do. And I know that the more that, my reputation and things like that, more people will participate in that crowdfund early on. And so this is just the beginning to me. And I always want to bring whoever's ready with me, that's super important to me, just so important. So yeah,
I love that. We're going to get to these questions, but this, as you guys can see, this hair care topic, a hair care education topic, it's a serious issue. There's a psychological component to it, right, that we've not even touched on. That's real. I mean, it really, really is, and it's real for both women and men. And I'm going to read the question. I'm going to start with this question from Bernard. Bernard says, what upsets me about this is nearly all hairstylists or hair education is focused on women, yet men bald because they were never taught how to maintain their hair besides going down the street to the barber. How will your program benefit men hair care? I love that question, Bernard. Thank you.
I do too.
I love it.
Bernard, let me tell you. So I was literally preaching in my living room last night to my husband, like, we're going to tackle the men's hair care. Like, I was seriously having this whole speech last night about it, because I was just like, it just doesn't make sense for this not to be tackled. So I want to tell you, first of all, our classes include, one of our anchor classes that we're looking to include, and we have one on it now, but we're looking to really make this part of our core, is hair loss. And hair loss does not have a gender. And that includes everybody. And the techniques that are out there right now are incredible. Like, I've talked to people who've been in the hair loss game for 20 years. They're like pioneering what that even looks like. I had conversations with a woman who's actually retiring right now, but she has been so deep in the hair loss world that she partnered with like the main manufacturer of hair pieces and then started custom making the hair pieces with textured hair, because they're not even selling them bad boys. They don't even have them. They don't even have them. So the thing is, it's really deep. It's like, that's why I think that this has to be tackled from a industry wide, not just like the salon service vertical or just the education vertical, but products. Because another example is like, even in cosmetology schools, the mannequins they use, there were no mannequins with textured hair pre like 2020 anywhere. Black women started making them on their own and selling them to these cosmetology schools. And even most of them still don't have them because these are independent, you know, crafts people that are making these things, and they're not able to get the word out that fast that they have this product to scale it, which is why we want to be in this with them. But no, I don't, that's absolutely not ignored. Hair loss to me is not a gender specific topic. And in general, textured hair is not a gender specific topic. It does so happen that 91% of the professionals are women, but that doesn't mean that they're only servicing women. So very important. Absolutely agree. We're on it.
Nice. Very good. Lorraine says, will your platform address locks at some point?
Yes, and we already have in the past, we've had classes that feature locks. We're really, every style we're trying to cover. Natural hair care is the core because people don't know how to care for the actual hair. That includes, we've had people actually, consumers buying our classes as well, which was initially really surprising to me that they would purchase it instead of going on YouTube. But actually trust is a real issue, and people don't, it's like information overload. People want to go somewhere where they can trust and feel like they're actually getting the class that is going to teach them exactly what they need to know. So yeah.
Yeah, the education is key. I remember when I went, so I've been natural for, and I know people don't realize that because I typically am straight, or even I'm flat ironed, right? So even when I'm curly, it's a curls with a flat iron. So I look straight, but I've been natural for, I think, 10 years now. But even with the products that we use, right, and the styles I'm able to do because my texture, right, I don't have 4C hair, right? So when I went natural, I didn't understand textures. I wanted an afro. My whole goal was to get an afro. Well, I don't have afro hair, right? So I went natural and I was like, where's my afro? Like, what happened? You know, like I thought we were going to have an afro. And my stylist was like, well, you don't have that kind of hair. I was like, well, shit, you should have told me that, but you know, before I went natural, because I went natural to get the afro. So that the education piece is huge. I mean, it just is such a big deal. And, you know, stylists are coming out, you know, from school, and they know how to do hair, but can they groom and grow healthy hair, right? They may know how to do the fly styles and all of that stuff, but can they get a healthy head of hair going? And so I love that that's what you're starting with. I love that when you set out your roadmap, the education is first. Sarah says, go ahead, Stephanie.
No, I was just gonna say, and like the reality is that we become somewhat dependent in a way on styles, and also we think of our hair as a certain difficulty, but it's not necessarily because it is actually that difficult. It's because if you don't care for your hair at all, if you're washing your hair like once a month, if you're like not detangling it ever, if you're not using the right products, like, yeah, it's difficult because you're not doing any of it right. I got 4C hair. I got the thickest of the thick, straight from the motherland, okay? And the reality is that once I started to educate myself, I was like, oh, this could be a lot easier. I don't have to detangle my hair for 3 hours. I can actually detangle my hair in 20 minutes. How is that possible? With all the right stuff.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Sarah says, as a newish Colorado resident, finding textured hair care stylists has been an interesting / lackluster experience in a mostly white-centered personal care industry. With so much opportunity for improvement, how are you using the local market to research, test, refine, and grow your user base? Very good question, Sarah.
Yeah, so because of, again, I'm just emphasizing my background just so you know more about who I am and, you know, how that plays into this. Because of our background, like, research, test, going to market is like, that's the cycle we're on all the time. It's how we were able to actually get to 2,300 members with a $2 CAC, which I'm very proud of, which is just cost of acquisition. So we were running ads. This means that we were converting these stylists to our platform at $2 a piece, which is crazy. Like, I've literally gone at marketing agencies to work with them, and they're like, we'll work with you, but we don't think we could ever beat what you guys did on your own. So just to give you perspective. But anyways, how is that possible? Because we were going into market, doing research and testing products. And that's just how we did this. We've been incredibly lean. We have not spent a bunch of money that we didn't need to spend because we were just testing constantly. And we would do that by creating an iteration of our product and then marketing it online. We have a really good targeted market set online that we're able to test with. And we know pretty quickly if it's on point or not. And we've done this locally, we've done this nationally. And also I'm from Colorado, so I have a unique perspective on the parts of the country that are not diverse. And there's big problems there. I also have had on our panel of industry insiders, and one of our educators was from Colorado Springs. So getting that mix of different perspectives, because the perspective in the melting pot is entirely different than the perspective here. So really important to have all of that at the table.
Very good. Eddie says, hi, Stephanie. This is an awesome Uber-like model with little or no physical inventory and great upside. Question, how will you screen educators to ensure that Crownhunt does not inherit negative press, if you plan to?
Great question. That is a fantastic question. And I will tell you that we spent a good portion of 2022 thinking about that. So thankfully you asked at the right time and I've got an answer. So honestly, it's been a challenge. Because of the fact that this is so new in terms of like a bunch of people creating this type of curriculum. Now it's on YouTube, but the YouTube thing is a different story, and I'm happy to talk about that. But in terms of professionals that are, know their stuff, been to school, have accreditation, whatever, them creating courses, because it's still fairly new, it's very spread out. So the average educator that's out there has 3 to 5 classes. That's it. So not a big library. So anybody who's looking for classes, like, could they find their own? Maybe, if the person has good SEO, but most of them don't. But what they could do, they might find somebody, but they're going to see 3 classes. And it's going to be very specific, 3 grading classes or 3 this class. It's not going to be a big library. But then also, wait, let me go back to your question. Make sure I answer it directly. How do we screen educators? Right.
Yes.
So I would say the majority of the educators that are out there have incredible content in terms of what they're teaching. They know their stuff. That's the only reason why they got in it anyway. Most of them have been 20 years in the game. They're ready to get from behind the chair, and people are asking them to create education. That's why they make it. So it's already in demand before they start. However, production, quality, and also knowing how to teach is a big part of what isn't always there. And that is very challenging. So I like to say, in a lot of ways, we're like Peloton in the early days, right? Like pre-Peloton, there were incredible fitness instructors that were posting videos from their phone in their living room of workouts. And the workouts were great. And they knew their stuff. They were right. But the quality of the material, maybe not so much. So what Peloton did was they came in and they said, what if we upgrade the entire user experience of taking a fitness class online, and we partner with these really great, we find the people who are incredible, we partner with them, and we bring up we level up their material. That's what we're looking to do. And we're going to start, though, by licensing the best that we can find. And then our hope is to actually, over time, produce content of our own in collaboration with these great educators similar to Peloton.
Very good. Lorraine in the chat says that she says my mom had to braid up her hair then roll it up on those pink squishy rollers, and then pick it out to get an afro. So Latrice, we got to schedule a time when we can both try that, see if it works.
Now I'm gonna be real. I was like, when I grew my hair out natural, I was like, oh, I got an afro. If I just get in the shower, it's an afro. Cool. But then I was thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have like the longer, my hair could be down here and my fro would be like maybe this big.
Right.
My shrinkage is crazy. So I would be looking at these pictures of like the cute little hanging curls, and it's like, no, your curls don't hang, girl.
They
go straight up to the head.
But they do have products that reference shrinkage, right? That shrinkage is the problem they're solving. So again, it goes back to that knowing what to use and where to go and how to use it. It all goes back to the education. Jerry says, are there strategies to restrict your crowdfund target groups? Is this SEC legal? Jerry, I'm not sure I understand your question. Are there strategies to restrict with an equity crowdfunding raise? Money is green. You want anybody who wants to invest, right? And because they believe in the service or product or company that you're building. So when you say restrict your crowdfund target group, Jerry, if you can clarify what you mean. Because I would say we want to broaden her group, right? Not restrict it. So tell us.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I could say a few things that might help, and then we can see if you have more to say. So we're not really restricting it. I mean, we're trying to, our goal was to raise 25% of our total raise through crowdfunding. We're open to that being exceeded. We just thought that was a good goal, and it helps us have better conversations with institutional investors because we know how much we're trying to raise with them. So it was more about our fundraising strategy and organizing that. That was really critical. In terms of restrictions, I don't know if you mean like restrictions on who's legally allowed to contribute to crowd funds. Basically, anybody can contribute to a crowd fund. I know once you exceed a dollar amount, at least on WeFunder, you have to verify certain things. So if you exceed $2,200, you have to verify your income and net worth, I think.
Yeah. So the portals determine if you are accredited or non-accredited investor. If you are an accredited investor, which means you make $200,000 a year, or married, you make $300,000 a year, and or your net worth is at least $1 million, you don't have a limit. You can invest anything you want. They consider you sophisticated investors, and they believe that you are sophisticated enough to manage the money that you have, and you don't need the SEC to put a limit on you. If you are a non-accredited investor, that would be anyone who makes less than what I just said. Those people have a limit. You're only allowed to invest up to a certain percent of what your net worth is. So the standard would be $22,000, $2,200 a year limit. But if you can prove your net worth is higher than what the $2,200 limit is, then you can answer some additional financial questions, and then you're able to invest more than the $2,200. So when you go on the portals, they have you walk through those questions. You want to answer those as accurately as possible, taking into account all of your assets. So if you already have investments, because net worth is it's your income minus debt, right? Is where you end up with what you're worth, but it does not include your primary residence. So that's the part of the law I call BS on, because we know that most people, their wealth is in their homes that they own. So when you take that out of the equation, especially for Black people, that's where most of our wealth is. And when you take that out of the equation, our net worth plummets drastically. But net worth is the determining factor on how much you can invest. And that's based on the SEC rules. The founders don't have any say in that. And that's industry wide. So none of the portals have different rules. It's all SEC based with those rules. So we hope we answered your question, Jerry, in regards to that. Are there any additional questions for Stephanie? And Stephanie, I just want to say as we get those final questions, and I want to say thank you, because you're absolutely right. Every single founder that we've talked to talks about the fact that raising money via equity crowdfunding is a lot harder than if you just let a VC write a big check. So the fact that you guys are coming this route because you truly want the community to be able to invest is huge, because otherwise those non-accredited investors, right, would never have an opportunity to get in on the ground floor of a company as innovative as what you're building. And that's how we miss opportunities on the Ubers and the right and the Pelotons and all of those other companies that now are valuated in the billions, because we weren't able to get those seats at the table. And so thank goodness for the Jobs Act, because it allows us to play at a different level in this game, in helping us build wealth, and ultimately, with the right deal, right, building generational wealth even. So
totally. And I mean,
I know it's a lot more work.
Of course. I mean, I'm grateful for the timing of everything. I always say, like, I'm not the keeper of time. I have to tell myself that to be relaxed in this work that we're doing, because there's so much that you're doing at the same time. And you just, timing is so critical, but you're not in control of it. But on the positive side, I would say timing in this case is really incredible, right? Like, people haven't even been able to do these equity crowdfunds for longer than like 5 years, I don't think. Yeah. And then on top of that, we have this critical moment in our history as a nation where everybody wakes up and suddenly it's like, oh my God, we need to like include all these things we forgot. So that happens in 2020. And then we have been working on the things, and then like the momentum of Crownhunt happens at this moment. So I don't take that for granted. I think all of that really has come together in divine, universe, whatever you believe in, way. And I think that it would be a disservice to the time that I am not keeping track of, but the time that the universe is keeping track of, to not give that opportunity, because I just think it all came together the way it was supposed to.
Nice. Jerry says his question is probably a better discussion as we engage with your portal. And then Eddie says, are you open for an exit? Or do you have an exit goal for the long-term impact?
Yes, we are open for an exit. We're looking to exit in like 4 to 7 years. In terms of our current projections, we're looking at like 28 million in revenue in 4 years. What that means for tech companies is like a 10x multiple on the value of a company. So that would be like a valuation of 280 million. We think we'd be probably okay with exiting at that point. But also there's that 8 billion out there to chase. So I think that, as we learn, as we grow, as we figure out what this journey is really like, we might decide to stick around and go for the crazy money. And, so that's something we would do. In terms of exit partners, I think there's a couple of key types of companies that would be ideal. There's like the Aveda, they're in the education space, but they're really large in terms of their corner of the market with education. I could imagine them wanting to buy us because we have the entire journey for a stylist, right? They have the initial get the certification part, but we have everything else. How to build your business, how to open a salon, how to like grow your skills, continuing education. So I could see them being interested in us. I could also see a company like Amazon actually being interested in us. They opened a salon. That sounds so crazy, but they opened a salon in like 2020 in London, and it's a experimental thing. But what they're looking to do is they have recognized the through line from products to salons. And so they're thinking with their corner of the product market that maybe they could have a salon where it's all Amazon products. And so it's y'all should look it up. It's really interesting. It's an Amazon salon that only sells Amazon products. And so with all the data we would have and the relationship we would have with actual stylists and salons, we could be a great bet for them, so that they don't have to figure all that out in R&D, but they actually could just partner with us and have all that. So that's another example of a pretty large player that we think might be interested in us. And then also P&G, because P&G has all the products. And so if they had that data and the through line to the stylists and all that, I think they'd be pretty interested, and we already have some connections with P&G.
Nice. All right, this is awesome. Another successful evening. This is wonderful. So let's get to the call to action, right? Because we didn't just come here to play. There's a takeaway, right? And the call to action is very simple. Share this campaign with everyone you know. And now I'm gonna say for all of us with stylists, share this campaign with our stylists too, right? So they can become consumer, subscribers on the platform. So we've got an extra takeaway for those of us that have stylists. But share it with everyone we know. Share it with our stylists. Obviously, do your due diligence and determine if you want this in your portfolio. Do not procrastinate, because that early bird, remember we talked about that early bird, you don't want that to go away, right? If you're going to invest anyway, why not get the preferential valuation in my mind, right? But again, that is not financial advice. That is common sense advice. If you want to get the better rate, if you are going to invest anyway. Latrice, I'm going to connect. So Stephanie, the connections kind of have become a thing. So I'm going to connect you with Anasi. Who else? I'm going to connect you with, what was the name? I think it was Chi by Chai was another product that we had. Latrice, who else? Sky by Chi, that's what it was. Thank you. Y'all are better than me. I love it. Sky by Chi, that's what it was. Yes. And Tip Snap. Yeah, so Stephanie was on when Tip Snaps was on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do that one. So let me get my list here. Anasi, Sky by Chi. Who else, y'all? What else? What are some other good connections based on founders we've had? Oh, Cut Buddy. Thank you, Eddie. Oh, Latrice, that's interesting. Latrice says Needle. So Stephanie, have you ever heard of Needle? Mm-mm. So you've heard of Clubhouse, I'm sure, right? Mm-hmm. So Needle was around before Clubhouse, has the same system but better, right? So more bells and whistles than even Clubhouse. The only reason we don't know Needle as a household name is because they didn't get the millions of dollars funneled into the platform, right?
It's always funded.
Same show. It's always the funding, right? So Needle is a radio platform, a voice platform. So yeah, that may work too. And then my admin is saying Curious Story, but tell me in what way? In what way do you think Curious Story? Because Curious Story is like, it's kind of like Tip Snaps in that they bring their, you bring your community, right, through video content, and you monetize your video content, your creator content. So that's Curious Story. Are you doing any of that for so let's talk about that for a minute. If I am an educator, so I'm a stylist that comes on your platform, right? And maybe I've got a YouTube channel where I do some things. Is there anything in the plan to take some of that YouTube content creator market and couple it with what you're doing?
We're not looking to like integrate with YouTube or anything like that right now, but if somebody has content that would be great for the stylists in our network, please contact us with that. We are looking to make partnerships right now with a select group, and our model is to do monthly licensing with them.
Okay.
And Quelly TV, I saw that would be great also from a marketing perspective. One quick tip I wanted to put on here in terms of urgency. We have hit some milestones in our campaign that trigger WeFunder to actually do advertising on our behalf, which could trigger as early as this week. So I'm saying that because that early bird could go really fast when they start marketing us to the entire WeFunder investor network. So just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's very good. So Jerry says, I was referring to engaging with the 10K project, obtaining your services. So Jerry, no. So Jerry, there are no limitations on them obtaining our services We are an investor community, right? We are not financial advisors. We are bringing together the Black founder who is raising money via equity crowdfunding, and we're presenting them to a community of investors, and that is well within the FINRA and SEC rules. So if you were referring to if there were any limitations as it relates to us, then no, there absolutely are no limitations. We're a closed member environment. So based on that, we don't have to do demo days the way other platforms have to do it, where they have to have more than one founder. When it's a public forum, we're a closed member community. If we were not virtually, we would all come to an investor meeting in a hotel conference area, right? And we would talk about investments. We're doing it virtually, but it's the same concept. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you for clarifying, Jerry. And if you've got any additional questions along that line, don't hesitate to email me at trivers@the10kproject.com. So we can answer all of those. Latrice says, does anyone remember the name of the local streaming service? My mind is drawing a blank. They were called Streaming TV, weren't they? I think they were Streaming TV, Latrice. Is that the one you're talking about? Put in the chat, Latrice, if that's the one you were talking about. Oh, you said you don't know if it might be it. I think that's the one you're talking about, the Streaming TV guy. Any other questions before we let Stephanie close us out with her final comments? You know mine, call to action stuff. Share, 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 share. Share it with the stylist. Do your due diligence. Don't miss the early bird if you're already going to invest. Again, not financial advice. Let's do, before you give your final comments, let's do the drawing before I forget again. So a number from 1 to 414, Stephanie.
212.
212 is Sheila George. Let's see if Sheila's with us tonight. Nope.
Okay,
number.
I keep going. 7.
Mm-hmm.
This is fun. It's
Kevin
just 7,
Brooks.
not 70. Oh, whatever.
Just 7? You said 7, right?
Yeah, it said 70 in the chat.
Kevin Brooks. Oh, Kevin, why are you not on, man? Kevin's not on.
Well, I guess 70 now that it's in the chat. We'll do that next.
Okay. Latrice. Latrice Tucker. Awesome, Latrice. Congratulations, my dear. I will email you and you can choose between the $100 gift card. And typically Cherie does that from Amazon. Or if you want to upgrade, if you haven't, or if you don't already have the financial planning package, you want the upgrade, please? Okay, I feel like Beyonce's playing in my head. Can I get an upgrade? Yes, ma'am, you can. So we will put that information in and we'll email you everything about that. Congratulations. Stephanie, close us out, my dear. You did a wonderful job this evening. Congratulations in advance for all of the success that you're going to bring to your company. And most of all, for educating us and for helping these stylists and for helping all those Black girls and boys that are going to go into stylists and people are going to look at them like, what are you doing in here? Right? What you're doing is going to prevent that from happening. So thank you.
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me. This has been amazing. I'm so grateful to even be connected to a network like this. I love that what you guys are doing. I'm so grateful for everybody that's here. I would say that just some parting words is, I just don't think any of this is by accident. I'm not trying to harp on that, but I just really don't think so. Me meeting you, getting connected to this network is so in the vein of what we're trying to do. We're trying to empower other entrepreneurs. So the unique thing about Crownhunt is that you're not just getting to invest in a female Black-owned company. You're getting to invest in a product that whole mission is to serve an entire ecosystem of underserved entrepreneurs. So it's like taking your investment and scaling it even more because of what we're able to create. We're very early. So that's also great. And I'm just excited to be here. I'm really pumped about what's possible, and the vision is enormous. So that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. With that said, have a wonderful, blessed evening, everyone. And you know what's next. You know what you got to do. All right, guys. See you next week. Good night. Thank you again, Stephanie.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.